right, Jeff.
Well, it's a pleasure to be back doing this, and but I've been practicing and studying. Which one of the things when you have to present something is you have to study. I have to study because there's some of this that's within 5 years new to me. Um, but the more that I studied, the more I realized a bunch of my backgrounds all fold into this path. My Christian background and my undergrad degree was in theology at a Baptist university. And so we start with a couple of these things. You'll see me interject some very interesting things that even the Bible said that are just right in line. As a matter of fact, some Buddhists believe that Jesus probably in those early years made his way to the East and had the influence of Buddha, because the Sermon on the Mount could just as well have been done by Buddha rather than Jesus.
Yeah.
So
There's really no conflict.
no,
Spirituality, religion, there may be a conflict
Yeah.
because it's institutionalized, but on a spiritual level, there's not a problem.
yeah, and also being working in the field of psychology and those things. There's so much about psychology that fits in with this. And I have to tell you, as I do counseling with people, and there are plenty of people doing counseling, I have more people that I'm doing counseling for at this moment than I ever have. Just because it's a tough time for people and they're not used to what's happening. Um, I find that about half of my sessions are teaching them Buddhist things. This would be a good practice for you to let go of that. Why don't you try this? And surprisingly, it beautiful. It all dovetails in with each other, so it's lovely. One of the things that we've done here is we really believe that this is about everyday Buddhism. That we try to stick with the basics, try to practice the basics, not only understand and gain the knowledge of the basics, but practice them, which fits right in line with how Buddhist teaching is. That it starts with an understanding where you gain knowledge, but that will not get you to where you need to be. It needs to be followed by action, and so that fits beautifully. So Ruthie had started on the first two of the eightfold path, but I want to review the Four Noble Truths which contain the eightfold path. The first noble truth that the Buddha presented after his enlightenment is the idea that life is suffering. That there's a dis-ease that we feel with life, we experience with life, that somehow it's supposed to be more than what it's offering. And because of that, we suffer. So just like the Christian religion, you start with the bad news. But it gets better as you go. The second noble truth is that we suffer because we attach. We attach to things that don't eliminate suffering, but actually bring on more suffering. We have expectations of life, things, people, um, lifestyles, leadership, all kinds of things that will lead us, when we attach to them, to more suffering. So the problem with suffering is attachment, clinging, grasping, holding on to things that cannot deliver.
And that can't last.
And don't last. I was thinking on my way here, as I was really enjoying driving down the road after 15 days of being on the mountain, and I really enjoyed driving, and I was just taking it all in as I came. What came to me was the very first song that I ever composed from Isaiah 55.
Mhm.
And here's a few of the words that fit beautifully with this second noble truth. Why do you spend your money for what is not bread, and your wages for what does not satisfy? There's much more to that, but that idea that we expect things from things that can't deliver is the reason why we suffer. The third is that it's simply said there's a way out of this suffering. So all of a sudden the light starts to come at the end of the tunnel, and there's a way out of that suffering, and that is non-attachment. And that as easy as that is to say, how difficult it is to do, to reduce or eliminate our expectations, to not to attach to negative energy that comes at us from within, from without, from our circumstances. And so the good news is there's a way out of that. And then different than other religions that have commandments comes the fourth noble truth, which is here's 8 ideas for you that maybe might help you along the path towards non-suffering and happiness. Here's some ideas, check them out. The beauty about Buddhism is they're not recruiting.
Yeah, there's no recruitment.
It's just absolutely lovely. If you want to somehow join at whatever level you want to join, as many of you in your introduction said, welcome. It's the Buddhist smorgasbord. Help
Mhm.
yourself, enjoy.
Mhm.
Whatever looks good to you, take it.
Mhm.
Whatever doesn't look good to you, don't eat that.
Yeah.
It's a very, very, when Ruthie taught that, I was just like, oh, finally.
Yeah.
Finally, a spirituality that isn't asking me to join or pay or have a membership to.
Yeah.
It's lovely.
Yeah.
These 8 ideas, I'm not going to do all 8 because I don't. I need them on a sheet of paper, and I don't have the sheet of paper.
Okay.
But
You're gonna do the first 2.
the first 2 are what are called wisdom steps,
Mhm.
and this is right understanding or right view, and right intent. Those 2 are part of 8, and we'll spend some weeks. We'll spend some weeks at this, but it's interestingly just like everything, they all like connect with each other. It's a web of 8.
Mm-hmm.
That as you work on one, it's not like I finished step 1, good for me.
Yeah, check.
Now let's go to 2. It's not like that. It's that every one of these steps interweave with each other. You can be trying to work on your right view, and many other things will come into that are part of the other 8 steps. So it's a very kind of simultaneous work about these right ideas. And the word right is a tricky one because it sounds like you can be right or you can be wrong in our dualistic thinking. But actually all it is saying is that there's a middle way, and that would be helpful. It's almost like right is just like, here's helpful for you.
Mm-hmm.
If it's helpful for you, skillful.
Is it skillful, virtuous, beneficial?
Mm-hmm.
And if it does, and non-harming, if it does those things, then that's really the meaning of right. We shortened up a word that has more meat to it in Sanskrit.
The Eightfold Path is really the heart of the middle way idea of Buddhism. And in a world that's very polarized,
Mm-hmm.
and our thinking in this world very polarized, this is really an answer to happiness and peace.
Mm-hmm.
So if you work this Eightfold Path, you will be called away from the extremes, from black and white thinking, from black and white understandings, to see value where there may be seemed valueless before. When I worked in Baptist church, I got in deep trouble because we had current issues with the kids. And I picked a couple of them that were hot buttons for the Baptists. One was world religions, and so we visited all kinds of places. But the other one was abortion. And there were people actually in the Baptist church who believed that women had the right to choose. And so I had them present along with the traditional Baptist view. It almost got me fired because even in those days, I actually think the influence of Buddhist thinking was there, that there is a way to understand each other that has a lot to do with empathy for the opposite side and understanding of that. And so this right understanding and this right view of things has a lot to do with finding the middle. Psychology, interestingly, almost all research in psychology ends up with a bell curve. So if you study, study some mental illness or you study some family system, the healthy model, the productive, the workable model is in the middle of that bell curve. The extremes are the troubles. And so no wonder why the world is in such trouble, because it's so polarized. It cannot find this answered, and that is why this is such an important message in these days. But these wisdom steps about right understanding talk about integrated balance and simplicity.
Balance.
And simplicity.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the reasons we don't go off into like heavy sects of Buddhism kind of thinking, and Ruthie and I aren't gurus, we're just practitioners of this.
Mm-hmm.
And so the simple approach is that there are Four Noble Truths, there is an Eightfold Path, and maybe we should stick with that.
Mm-hmm.
It's difficult enough to not attach to things, to not grasp, not cling to things, or be around people who do that. So these are guidelines to be considered, contemplated, to promote learning, personal growth, self-discovery. So I'm going to start with the right understanding. Right understanding is the first of the Eightfold Path, and the goal of getting a right view or understanding is to see the world as it actually is. Hence the idea that you continue to have to live in the moment, because the moment actually is all that you have. This moment is all that you have. And so when you see the world as it is, that's why it was so thrilling to go down the road today and to watch different views of the jungle. That was what it was for that moment, and I wanted to absorb it and be a part of it, because that is how the world is. I saw how it was also different, like the road on your way up here, very much worse than the last time I was here 3 months ago.
It's really
I
bad.
noticed, because there I was, driving on that road, seeing the world as it is, not as we believe it is, it should be, or that we hope it would be, or how it used to be, or how we can project it will be in the future. To just see our life as what we have is right now. It's like this step is like a map. You can, if you're going somewhere you haven't gone before, maps are a little obsolete because we have the apps now. But if you're going somewhere that you don't know, you study, you read, you examine, but then you have to get on the road. And Buddhism is just like that. You study, you read, you examine, and then you've got to get on the road to practicing.
And you become very aware when you've gone off the guardrails, which you weren't before you started paying attention. You
Yes.
know, you notice the irritations or the angers or the envies or what have you that you just lived with before.
In the New Testament, it says something about the importance of practicing what it is that you learn and you aspire to. I have it here somewhere, I think.
Well, the definition of a hypocrite is someone who says one thing or professes one thing and acts in another way. I mean, that's,
So here's how James says it. If one of you tells a person, go in peace, stay warm and well fed, but does not provide for his physical needs, what good is that?
mm-hmm.
So too, faith by itself is not is complemented by action. But someone will say, you have faith and I have deeds. Show me your faith without deeds, and I will show you my faith by my deeds. And so, same circle being taught in both of those. Even the Buddha didn't think that he should be worshipped.
Mm-hmm.
So he said, my teachings are not the moon.
Mm-hmm.
My teachings are finger pointing at the moon. But don't be mistaken, the finger is not the moon. The moon is the moon. These are to point you to the way, to the middle way, to the balance, to happiness, which is deeply highlighted in Buddhism, which is very different than other religions. Rarely is happiness thought of as the ultimate goal. But that's what Buddhism says. So all of those things help you examine life, study it, see it from all the angles, see yourself from all the angles in the current moment, and then do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very, very practical set of ideas. The one thing that I think people make mistakes on both sides is they just are like, tell me what to do and I'll do it.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's religion.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me what to do and I'll do it. That's skipping the first step, which is about the answer is here if you will only look. The answer is within you. You know the answer. When I do counseling with people, they're like, what should I do? I'm like, I have no idea. What do you think? And they're like, I don't have any idea either. And I'm like, okay, let's be lost for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have your answer. I have some of my answers. Maybe there will come a time where I think something, of my answers might help you, but rarely. And so that idea that we come to a right understanding by examining things. And we did a retreat. Sharon, you remember the retreat that we did? And I presented about this idea that when you don't grasp at things, which causes suffering, that's how when you hold on to things, this is supposed to be like this, I expect it to be this.
Mm-hmm.
When we release that grip and let it sit and we observe it, something will happen. It will either stay there because there's a reason that it's there, or it will fly away like a bird, or we'll find the courage and the energy to blow it away. But Buddhism is never about going back to this. We don't own really anything. And so the idea of having a right understanding is followed up by examination of ourself, of a circumstance, of another viewpoint, of another person. When we do that, we will find peace and we will find happiness because we have no control of it. It has its own control. So right understanding is really about finding the middle way between examination and control. And that middle way is that examination leads you maybe to some answers about self-control, but it never leads you about control beyond that. Does that make sense? Does this make sense?
Ooh, yeah.
It's very un-Western.
But it's really about balance. When we talk about the middle way, that's the point, that you're not off to one side, you're not off to the other side, that you find it's not that you're just in a center point, it's that you're in a balance point, which could be anywhere on the spectrum, actually.
And also
it's not a physical dead center, it's a balanced
a balanced spot and an evolving spot.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things, those of you who are from Catholic background, I had a Catholic partner at one point in time, and we had many discussions over dinner about Catholic theology. And one of the really interesting things that he said to me, which I thought was super interesting, is that Catholic theology and beliefs evolve. And my answer was always like, not very fast.
Not very far.
Seems the same as the Middle Ages about some of these
still
things.
Wearing the same damn hats.
But anyway, the idea is that what was centered for us today will evolve into something else. That's the adventure of this path, is that you will not be the same tomorrow. The circumstances around you will not be the same tomorrow. And therefore the balancing is a continual process. I wrote down some psychology things where you talk about balancing yourself, balancing your personality with other people's personalities, balancing your conscious with your unconscious, balancing your values, evolving your values, balancing your motivations, your interior and your exterior, your influences, and big picture to small picture, all these constructs that psychology puts over it. And actually Buddhism just says, if you live in the moment and work at examination and balance and action, you will find it. Mm-hmm. If that leads you into thinking about your personality, then evidently that's your evolution at this point in time, is to do that. When I do therapy, I always ask people to do homework. Because first of all, 1 hour in time doesn't change your life. Neither does the therapist. You change your life, and you change it by not only understanding some things maybe differently, reframing things, looking at that differently, or facing it, examining it, but also by practicing something. It's totally exactly the same thing that the Buddhists are saying. Mm-hmm. And so if you find an idea of a new understanding for yourself or a new understanding of the world, if you really want to take the full circle around this eightfold path, you will practice, you will do something, mm-hmm. You will change something, you will do a behavior that will lead you there. Because to know it is not enough, to practice it. And that's why meditation is one of the main practices.
Well, meditation gives you the space to let go of the negativities that you may have in your life.
Yes.
It gives you, it's a spaciousness. That's what the letting go is all about. And the non-clinging. To non-cling is to let go of the ideas very often and let them come to you. And then you find where your balance is with them. And, very true.
In another area of psychology is about communication. And also this is one, right? Speech is one of the eightfold path as well, and we'll get to that. But one of the key things in good communication is if you're going to do communication with someone, especially someone that you're having a difference with, the only way to get there is to be out of your own skin and in their skin for a moment, to understand and empathize, sit in their shoes. And so this right understanding, this balanced understanding it is about you owning your own things, but it also is having the ability to absorb the influence neutrally in a balanced, central way of someone else. When you do that, there's no problem that can't be solved in communication. You don't see many examples in the world these days about this kind of communication. But the concepts are there, and you see many people practicing these kind of things. So let me do the second one. How are we doing for time? We're good? Okay.
Could I say one thing?
Yeah, go ahead. We're on right understanding. So the first one.
Several Canadians here, and if you knew me, you'd know that I absolutely love what I consider the greatest pop artist of all time was Leonard Cohen. And he always has something that speaks for me directly to it. When you talk about this balance and whatnot, think he's got two lines in one of his songs. And they are, "There's a mighty judgment coming, but I may be wrong." And this is the kind of thing you get into, you know. I really have this, but you know, you have to balance it and be with it. Anyway, the Brahma Viharas are the four elevated dwellings, the elevated parts of your mind. So as you do the relaxing and letting go, the renunciating, of letting go of all the negativity, you have to put something in its place. And the suggestions here are four main things. Loving kindness. You notice it doesn't say loving or kindness. It puts the two together. Compassion, sympathetic joy, and above all, equanimity, which we've talked about a lot today. So there, the loving kindness is also called Maitri or metta, and it is unconditional friendliness. You have to make the distinction between conditional and unconditional. This is unconditional friendliness. It has nothing to do with whether you like a person or whether they're good people or bad people. It is unconditional. In your everyday life, we have a lot of conditions. But in your basic nature, your own true nature, it's, you know, Mother Teresa has a wonderful poem about how awful people are, but love them anyway. Because it never was about you and them to begin with. It's between you and God. They use God and the Buddhists don't, but it's just between you and divinity. So we're going to love everybody. We don't have to like them. And we don't have to be phony about it. We're trying to open up, open up, open up, open up. So this meditation is taking you, beginning with yourself. You move to someone you love. You move from there to someone who's neutral, that you just see at the store or something, but you don't really know, a neighbor or something. The fourth, as Jeff pointed out, is someone with whom you are in conflict. And the fifth is for all sentient beings in the universe, this universe and other universes. So I'm going to say a phrase. Close your eyes, we'll take a couple of deep breaths, and I'm going to say a phrase, and in your mind, repeat it to yourself. And I will tell you that I have never seen it fail, that people who do this for even a week or two, sometimes just once, it makes a difference in how they feel about life. It kind of changes your relationship to things. So this is a loving kindness meditation. Hit the dinger for me. We always begin with ourselves for loving kindness, compassion, for anything, because we cannot give from an empty cup. So we have to work on ourselves first. And it goes this way. May I be well. May no harm come to me. May I live with ease, that's equanimity, calm and peaceful. May I be happy. Now bring to mind someone you love a lot. Look at their face in your mind, smile at them, say their name, and say, may you be well. May no harm come to you. May you live with ease, calm and peaceful. May you be happy. Now with a smile and a wave or an air kiss, move to your neutral person. If you don't know his or her name, simply address them as friend. See if you can bring their face to mind as best you may remember it, or not really paying attention, have seen it. And say, may you be well. May no harm come to you. May you live with ease, calm and peaceful. May you be happy. And now, taking another couple of deep breaths, bring to mind someone with whom you are in conflict. It can be someone living or dead, near or far, real or imaginary. But someone who doesn't like you, or you don't like them, or with whom you have differences. And bringing them to mind, don't look away. Picture them and say, may you be well. May no harm come to you. May you live with ease, calm and peaceful. May you be happy. And now, setting them aside, put your hands over your heart. And bring to mind the whole phantasmagoria of sentient beings. Almost 8 billion people on this earth. Many more in universes we don't know anything about. Try and picture all of these people who all want basically the same things that we do. To be well, to be safe, to be happy. And say after me, may all beings everywhere, on this plane and all other planes, be well. May all beings everywhere be safe. May all beings everywhere be free from suffering. May all beings everywhere be happy. Now sit with the feeling, kind of let it permeate you. And you're going to try, when you open your eyes and you get up and you leave here today, to carry this feeling of unconditional goodwill with you throughout the rest of your day and all days. Again, go in peace, go making peace, living gently, loving mightily, and bowing to the mysteries. Thank you, guys. This was wonderful to be here today.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you.
thank you. Thank you, everybody. That was so cool. Yay! I love being here. And I kind of seeing the new bench.
It's nice.
That wasn't here.
Yeah, I know.
earlier.
Last time I was here, that wasn't here either.
That was very, very